Morning, everybody. The participants of today's virtual meeting. My name is Ivan Somagwa, an Assistant Director in Land Administration. I welcome you this morning. I'm moderating this meeting. I believe majority of you have been able to attend our previous meetings, where we did an element on enumeration process, and the last one was on conversion of properties within Nairobi. So today, we are going to focus on land administration processes, which we have quite a number, but there is one that we will focus on today for purposes of today's meeting to make it easy for you as you interact with the department and the ministry. Within land administration, we have the list processing, and once the lists have been produced, there are quite a number of transactions that one can be able to transact on the title, which would include the change of user, extension of lease, amalgamation, and subdivision, among the other transactions that one can handle. So for today, we'll focus on the subdivision to see how you can interact with the system, the requirements that you are required to the documents that you are supposed to submit, and generally to see how the process goes until you get the final product. We have our trainer today, Mr. Alan Tewet. He will take us through. And in case you have any issues, you can raise your hand, or any questions that you may wish to raise for purposes of clarification, because we believe this digital processing of transactions within the ministry is the way to go, and we don't want to be left behind. Thank you and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Tewet. I'm your trainer for today. We are going to look at development control, specifically subdivision, but we'll just mention through some of the requirements for the other development control processes. So today we'll deal with the subdivision specifically, but we can mention the requirements for the other processes. Going straight to the process that we are dealing with today, I think we had a brief overview on the previous webinars that we had. So straight away, I'm going to start to show the process of development control subdivision. And this service is under Land Administration Department. So it's under Land Administration. You can click on View More. And then we have these services under the department. You have a click on Development Control. And then we have the change of user, the extension of user, extension of lease, amalgamation, and subdivision. So these applications usually follow the same, generally follow the same flow, but please note at this point that you're making this application, for both amalgamation and subdivision, will be issued with a provisional approval letter, where you are required, first of all, to go and do the survey. Then before you can be issued with the final approval. So for the first three applications, that is change of user, extension of user, and extension of lease, this process, the output that the document that will be issued after this process is the final approval letter for the three. Now, for amalgamation and subdivision, will be issued with a provisional approval letter by the Director of Land Administration. And the provisional approval letter will allow you to now go and do the survey process, whether it was amalgamation or subdivision. Then once you are done with the survey, then you are required to go back to the county and get a recommendation letter. Then you come back with the application, with the recommendation letter, and upload on your application that where you issued the provisional approval letter. And then from there, you will be issued now with the final approval. So that is a bit, the flow for the two is a bit different, but generally they have the same flow. So for the three, when you make the application, this once the application has been processed, you will get the first of all invoice to pay the approval fees. Then thereafter you'll be able to download now the final approval. The two, you'll be able to obtain the provisional, then do the survey, and then come back later. Then you'll be issued the final approval letter. We can proceed with make an application for subdivision. So we have these tabs that we've adopted across the transactions that we do on the system. First of all, the pending tab is for the applications that is pending your action from the applicants, that is from you, if you are the applicant. So if you have an application on the pending tab, it means that it is pending your action. The ongoing application is the one that you've made, and it's ongoing in this being processed by the respective departments. And then the completed the application as the one that you made and have been approved by the ministry. And then the cancelled one, the ones that you initiated the cancellation, is the applicant along the way. Then rejected are the ones that have been rejected for one reason or another by the officer. Those are all the transactions are listed on either of those tabs, depending on the status of the application. So you can go ahead and start a new application. So before we start, I think it's important to mention that before you can do any transaction on do any of these transactions, your property has to have been verified. So so the first thing you need to do is to do the process that we did on the first webinar, that is add property. We add property, then the property is verified. And from there, you'll be able to now transact on that property. It's also important that the people who can initiate this application. However, we are making it allowing the rest of the professionals to be able to initiate this process. But for now, it's still the proprietor or a registered physical planner who can initiate the application. Well, we have the frequently asked questions before you start filling the form. So you can have a look at the frequently asked questions about the process, the actors, and also the requirements. You can have a look at that. Click on next, and then we start filling the form. The first thing is the parcel number. So we provide the parcel number in this format. So I'm going to use this parcel today. That is the property I'm going to use for the purpose of today's demonstration. Then the next thing is the land status. So you describe the status of the land, the current status of the land, the nature of developments, if any, or whether it is not developed. Or for this, I can just say it's not developed. And then we have this document, the Pluba DC17. This is the one that was previously known as the PPA2, issued by the county government. So before you can initiate this process, you start first of all at the county, where you obtain this approval in form of this document called Pluba DC17. So if you have the Pluba DC17 or the PPA2, still acceptable. So you require the reference number. So just key in the reference number as indicated on the approval that you have. And also the date of issuance of the PPA2 or the Pluba DC17. Then this is for the additional information. If you have any additional information you would like to provide for the purpose of this transaction, you can provide this box, but this is not mandatory field. You can just leave it empty or provide any additional information, if any. Next is the subplots. So add the subplots. Remember, you are doing a subdivision. So, and you expect that at this point you have some form of a scheme plan, that at least you have an idea of how many plots that you have that you are subdividing to, and the respective size of each. So I'll click on add the subplots. We have these two options: add change of user or don't change the user. You proceed with this option of don't change the user. It means that all the subplots that will result in this application will have the exact same user as the mother was subdivided. So if the mother was residential, it means all the plots will come in out as residential plots. But if you go with this option of change of user, you'll have to provide. It means that some of the plots, either some or all of the plots, will have a different use than that of the mother. So for this case, I can proceed with change of user. And first of all, I need to provide the approximate size of the plot. So remember, for this application that we are doing, I'm going to subdivide this parcel into two subplots of 0.02 hectares. So sorry, that is the acreage for the mother. So the acreage that you provide for the subplots should add up to should be equal or less than the total acreage of the mother. So the system will check that the subplots that you've provided and their respective acreage will add up to the total acreage of the mother parcel, or less. Should be equal or less than that of the mother. So for this case, I'm going to subdivide into two with 0.011 hectares. The mother was residential. I'm going to select commercial, and I say two plots. So from this information that we've captured here, it means I'm subdividing into two subplots of commercial use, and the acreage for each subplot will be 0.011. When I click on add, the system will list for me the subplots that I'll have on that property, that in this process of subdivision. So you can see I'll have two plots, the similar acreage of 0.011, and also for commercial use. So from there, click on next to proceed to the next page. The next page is the documents page, where you upload the required documents, and we require for the purpose of this application subdivision, we require first of all the Lupa DC was issued by the county, and then we require the copy of title for the mother parcel, then the scheme plan, scheme plan shapefile is not mandatory, it's optional. If you have it in form of shapefile, you can also provide as an additional documents, but it's not mandatory. Then we have the planning brief, also one of the documents that is required. Then we have additional documents. If you have any additional documents that we have not asked for here that you feel is required for this process, you can provide them here. So click on add document, provide the name of the document, and then you attach. So provide the name of the document and choose a document from your local storage where you've saved it on your computer, and they will be listed here. This one is listed here as the additional documents that you have. And then you click on next. The final page is the verified details page, where you can see check the details that you've captured, confirm if you've captured everything correctly, including the parcel number and all this information. If there's anything that you feel is not captured correctly, you can go back and correct, or you can make your submission. So for this one, I think I'm going to submit. So after the first submission, when you have filled the form and submitted, then the first thing before this application is processed is for the proprietor to verify, to approve this, to verify this application through the OTP. Or for example, this property that we're using is owned by two proprietors. You can see them here listed. So both proprietors must verify this application before it can proceed. Or you can see the disclaimer here, only enter the OTP if you authorize the development control with reference number. Yes, so for this, this is the message that the proprietor will receive. Okay, for this purpose, for this application, I used the account of the registered proprietor, but if it was initiated by a professional, then the proprietors will receive a notification to verify this application before it can proceed. So I'm going to verify by clicking on Get OTP. And the OTP will come to the phone. So key in the OTP and click on Verify. So I've verified on my part as one of the proprietors. The other proprietor will also do the same on the account. So the other proprietor has verified the application and the submit button is now active. So I'm going to click on Submit Request. And you can see the application is submitted successfully. So it's now pending the desk of land officer will proceed with now processing of this application. I'd like to mention maybe what we expect next for this application before it's approved. So at some point, the first thing that the officer will do is, as the practice, will request for comments from two departments, physical planning and survey. And the officer might also want to do a site visit. So for that purpose, the registered proprietor will be contacted by the officer for the purpose of arranging a site visit, or they'll do a site visit before they can proceed and provide recommendations to the director of land admin for approval. So, and once this application is approved by the director, you receive a notification by the applicant and also the proprietor, and you will receive a notification on that approval. And for you, and if for subdivision and amalgamation, you will be able to download the approval letter here, the provisional approval letter. Here, immediately the application is approved by the director. You'll be able to download the provisional approval letter here. But for the change of user, extension of user, and extension of lease, first of all, you will receive an invoice to pay the approval fee of 5,200. Then once you pay, then you'll be able now to see the approval letter document. So the entire transaction is done online. You will not be required to physically visit or submit any documents in form of hard copy. So the approval letter indeed will be downloaded here from the same application. I think basically that is it on the submission bit for the application for subdivision. I'll hand over back to Evans.
Thank you, Alan, for taking us through the process of subdivision. I think now we need to attend to any questions that you may have. I've seen a few. Number one, who initiates the process? And I think Alan has told you it can be initiated by the proprietor, it can be initiated by a planner. Even the surveyor, registered licensed surveyor is allowed, even an advocate, anybody is allowed, so long as you have you have been authorized by the proprietor to do on behalf. So you can be able to proceed. That would not be a problem. I've also seen what if plots have different acreages. I think that's allowed. That's not, in fact, in most cases, it's very rare to have, okay, in some instances they could be equal, but in some other instances they are not, and that's not a problem from either the application perspective, from the planning perspective, from the survey perspective. It's allowed. You only need to indicate which plot you are talking about and what is the acreage, and that is why actually the acreages are given in respect of the plots. If there are any other questions, it's good to raise them and they will be addressed by Alan or me or anybody who can be able to give an answer. But we are available to answer. Thank you.
So I think I'm going to answer some of the questions. We question from Brendan here. Does this procedure apply only for subdivision in Nairobi? Yes. So right now we are only transacting on the system on properties within Nairobi. And we said for the purpose of this process, the subdivision, the development control must have, first of all, the property has to have been verified. So if it's an LR parcel, make sure you do the replacement first, do the conversion, then you come and apply for development control. If you are given the approval from the county and the LR was quoted, it's not a problem. We'll just proceed with the same approval letters. So all you need to do first of all is do the replacement of title, then come and make the application. So what if the plots are on different acreages? I think I'll demonstrate that. Let me make it last. Stella Njagi, is this online process only for converted titles in Nairobi? So I think I've mentioned this for properties in Nairobi. Then I have someone, Sydney is asking for clarification on the 5,200 invoice. So I said for the other processes, that is change of use, extension of use, and extension of lease, once the director of land admin has approved your application, so for the first three, you will straight away receive an invoice to pay the approval fee of 5,200. But for subdivision, first of all, you'll be able to download the provisional approval letter. Around when the final approval is issued, 1,200 is for the three process. Then for the subdivision, it is 250 shillings per sub. For the subdivision, it is later on after you've done the survey and you come back for the final approval. I think another question from...
I can see there's a question on amalgamation. If the process is the same, indeed it is the same, but now it's like the reverse. Here we are talking of more than one plot, but they have to be adjacent to each other. They must be having the same proprietors, could be one or more, but they should be the same. The user must be the same. So many things have to be compatible for them now to be amalgamated.